Welcome to another video. You're hypnotized right now. What? Yes, right now you're hypnotized. You may believe this or you may not believe this, it doesn't really matter. Because truth is that you are not experiencing the world as it is. Why am I talking about this? What does this has to do with hypnosis? Well, let's look at it. Hypnosis is a focused state where we become aware of certain things and others we are kind of excluding, right? So for example, we become aware of a reality where we can't move our hand anymore and the hand is stuck, and this becomes a reality. Now, out of what is that reality consistent of? How is that reality being created? Well, that reality is being created by me believing certain thoughts, right? I have to believe at some level that I can't move my hand anymore, so it becomes an experience where I can try to pull the hand and it doesn't work anymore. I can't get it away because I believe at a deeper level that this is real. Now, what did I just say? You have a bunch of thoughts that become your reality. And that's the same thing with you right now. You have a bunch of thoughts and ideas and concepts that you believe are reality. You believe certain things about you, right? You believe that you can and can't do certain things. You believe that you're good at something and that other things you're not good. I am just a guy who can't get up at 6 a.m. I am not a morning person. I am just a cake person. I can't get off cake because I'm a cake person, right? And those are just beliefs and ideas that you have in your mind, but because you believe them to be true, they become reality for you, just like a hand can become a reality for someone in the way they can't remove the hand anymore. This hand is stuck. Hand is stuck to the other hand and they can't move it anymore. That becomes a reality. And the magic word here is belief. You believe something to be real and true. Now, you may be aware at some level that you have a limiting belief. I have a limiting belief around money maybe. But the truth is, you can't have a limiting belief and at the same time truly know that it is a limiting belief. It's impossible. Because as soon as I know that it's just a belief that I can't move my hand anymore, I truly know with my whole being, at that point, those thoughts lose their power. They lose their hypnotic nature. Because I've seen that they are not actually real. But that means I have to really truly realize it. It's not just something like, yeah, this is a limiting belief, yeah, I could just move my hand. No, you can't. You can't. In this moment you can't. So you don't know. You really don't know. So I'm talking, when I say you know, I don't mean an intellectual understanding. I mean a whole embodied understanding of something to be true or not true. And so you have this whole bunch of ideas and concepts about the world that you believe are true, and so the world is occurring to you according to those concepts and ideas. They're being filtered through those. And you believe that you're seeing the world as it is, because it seems like that someone is sitting in your head looking out through your eyes like windows. But that's not true. It's a real-time creation, the world we see. It's a real-time creative process that we engage in every time, or the whole time that we have any kind of perceptual experience, really. So not even are we having certain beliefs, we are in a creative process the whole time of how the world looks to us. And you are acting, of course, in alignment of how you see the world. So you're being hypnotized by how the world is occurring to you, believing that this is how the world is. Now knowing that you have beliefs and concepts and ideas about the world, and knowing that you have a real-time creative process inside of you that creates the entire experience that you have of the world and yourself, that changes the game. It really changes the game, because suddenly you can investigate this. You can investigate what's actually real. You can sit down and take a moment to see whether the story about you is actually you, or it's just a story. Now you can look, for example, at the work of Byron Katie, who has, it's called The Work. You can put it into Google or Byron Katie and you will come across her work. And she has a whole lovely little process where you can investigate that and find out whether those things are actually reality or just something that we have become to believe to be true. Just to kind of give you a different perspective on this, let's look at a metaphor. Or maybe it's even a real event, and I'm not sure. You can take an elephant when it's a baby and you can tie it to a pole that it cannot pull out. So it's always going to go around circles, but it can't go beyond the circle because it's not strong enough to pull out the pole, even if it tries. And so when the elephant grows up, at some point it's going to be massive compared to the pole that it grew up with, but it's still going to stay within the circle that it has learned to act within, because it believes that it cannot go further. But actually it's not true, it can go further now because it's much bigger and much stronger, and there's no way that this small little pole can hold it. And that's a bit like us. We believe that we have those limitations that we've just taken on as granted, either by watching other people or by having certain experiences. And they are actually not true. They are not really true. And looking at how you are limiting yourself and looking at those stories and how they're playing out in your life can really be liberating, because you can start to see that they are just made up. They're literally made up in the moment. Now that may take some practice, well, maybe not necessarily practice, but at least some awareness towards your inner life to a degree, where you can observe your mind at its working and how it's creating out of thin air stories, amazing stories, complex stories that you start to believe. So even when you have time afterwards, you can take time to just sit for a minute or two and kind of just sit in silence and see how the mind brings something up. And what's really interesting is not how it just brings it up, but at certain moments you lose yourself. You lose yourself in that story, meaning the attention is drawn away from, for example, your body, your physical kind of experience, and it's being drawn into the picture, the movie, or the storyline, which may be just consisting of a voice, and you lose sight of the reality right now that's happening. And it's almost like it's overlayering, overshadowing everything else. It is really that powerful. Because I originally thought I'm bad at visualizing, and then more and more I realized that's actually not true. The mind has a natural capacity to cloud your entire vision and your entire perceptual experience with the story or the movie that you can get pulled into. And then you're reacting to that. You're reacting to the movie and to the story that you have in that moment. You're not actually reacting to the in the moment reality that's happening. So let's take, for example, someone pulls out in front of you and you're in the car and you have to slam the brakes. That's what happens. Someone pulls out, you have to slam the brakes. Now, slamming the brakes is one thing. Now there's a whole nother thing that comes on top of that, which is, oh, what an idiot. They should have seen me. Are they insane? Blah, 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 blah. It's a whole other thing. You might even have like an image in your head of crashing, and that becomes the reality. You get even more kind of agitated and annoyed at the person and feeling like, you know, they are just so ridiculously stupid and all of that. And suddenly you have not met this person, you don't know what's going on, but suddenly you already feel like you know this person to a small degree. So if you were to get out of the car and you meet the person to have a conversation of what just happened, you are going to act very, very differently towards that person than you would have if you were just to get out after slamming the brakes and having zero story about it, and you're just interested in what happened. You will approach the situation very, very differently. So your expectation and your movie determines your behavior, and you're reacting to the movie, you're not reacting to the situation most of the time. And how that can actually shape our relationships is as well very, very interesting. So let's take, for example, a study that's been done with teachers, and the teachers were given a class where there's high performers and low performers. Now what they didn't know, the teachers, is that this information was wrong. Actually, the high performers were presented to them as low performers, and the low performers were presented to the teacher as high performers. Even though the marks wouldn't match, but they faked basically the data, and so the teacher was in the belief that the high performer is a high performer, even though the high performer that they thought was a high performer was a low performer. Now, what's interesting about that is that about 6 months into the study, suddenly the marks reflected that, meaning that the child that they thought was a high performer became a high performer, and the low performer that they thought was a low performer became a low performer, even though it was reversed before. And that's very interesting. Now, of course, I haven't dug into much details about those studies, but I definitely know that our expectations of people shapes our behavior, and of course it shapes their behavior towards us as well to a degree. And that's really important to know. So I encourage you to investigate those kind of stories that you have about yourself and that you're believing and that are becoming your reality. And it is really actually a pleasurable experience when you just sit and whenever something arises, it doesn't matter what it is, you just say, oh, that's a thought. And that's it. And you may lose yourself for a little bit in it and then realize, oh, that's a thought. And you just say it's a thought, and you just rest again wherever you have your attention rested, whether it's on your breath or whether it's on the sensations in your body, it doesn't really matter. And you'll see that the more you kind of see, oh, that's a thought, it loses its power. It loses its hypnotic power over you. And so there is a space where you are not, where you're less and less reacting to the stories and beliefs that you're having about yourself and the world. Anyways, I hope this was a useful video. If it was, please do share it with your friends and family, whoever might be benefiting from this. You can like it and you can subscribe if you'd like to keep being updated by the videos I produce. Anyways, I wish you a good day. Take care.